Hey Astra Kids, and welcome back. And this is your horoscope for July 2022. Let's go ahead and jump right into this. So up on the screen here is the list of transits that will take place during the month of July. And we'll be starting off here on July 2nd with Mercury entering into the sign of Gemini. Mercury is at home in Gemini, so this is an excellent placement. Mercury feels very comfortable here. This is going to highlight communication, business, entrepreneurship, developing your skills, the ability to connect and relate to others. This is very strong coming here into the sign of Gemini. So this is a very social time here as we come into July 2nd. As we move ahead here, on July 12th, we will see Venus enter into the sign of Gemini as well. So as Venus comes to join Mercury, this is especially a great time for socializing. Venus and Mercury are good friends to one another. And Venus does very well here in Mercury's home sign of Gemini. All about socializing, connecting, relating. This can be a great time to explore within your relationships, a great time for dating, for getting to know people. This is an excellent energy for anything where you are wanting to seek out something new, to learn, to explore. This energy here is very creative as Venus comes into Gemini. So for those of you who have a creative talent, those of you who are entrepreneurs, those of you who are putting projects together, this is an excellent time here with Mercury and Venus coming together. Now, as we come into this month of July, we do have a little bit of a tricky time happening here with Venus, because Venus will be hemmed between two planets. So we have this Mars Rahu on one side of Venus, and then we have this Jupiter energy on the other side. So this is a very intense period where this is all about taking care within your relationships and taking care of what holds the most worth and value to you. So even though this is a great transit for socializing, you may find that there are some difficulties or some pressure. You may feel some heaviness coming into this, like there's a lot on your shoulders in terms of relationships. We have a similar thing happening with Jupiter, as Jupiter will be hemmed between Mars and Rahu on one side and Saturn, which, by the way, once again, Saturn is stationed retrograde here, as we had that happen last month. So this Saturn retrograde, very intense, looking at our plans, our obligations, our routine, making sure that everything is in order. This is a huge time of rearranging things, making sure that you're on task. Taking care of those responsibilities in your life is huge. And so we do have this hemming of this Saturn energy on one side and this Mars Rahu. This can definitely feel like with Mars Rahu that you want to go, but Saturn is asking for discipline. It is asking for you to take your time to make sure that you have everything as it is supposed to be. And so you can feel a little bit of this lack of expansion in your life, things starting to slow down, a little bit of the luck and happiness starting to come down during this time. However, we are going to see these hems disappear as we move ahead into July. In particular, we're going to see them disappear as we move ahead into July 12th. And as we move ahead to July 12th, we have a lot that is going on here with this full moon entering into Sagittarius. And once again, this Venus Gemini that is adding to this Mercury Gemini, where this is a lot of social activity. For the full moon in Sagittarius, this will take place in Purva Ashada. And Purva Ashada is a nakshatra that has everything to do with faith, determination. It has the power to invigorate. So this is all about empowerment. And this is symbolized by a fan. So all about clearing, removing, releasing. And so this is definitely a huge time of letting go of the past, letting go of things that have kept you stuck so that you can move forward. all of those areas where you are feeling doubt, where you are feeling an inability to move forward, this is a time to empower yourself by removing what no longer serves you, making room for this growth, for this prosperity, for this forward movement here. Remember that Sagittarius is one of the most dharmic of all the signs in the zodiac. It is all about taking the right path. It is all about your principles. And so this is a huge time to get on the right path by clearing out the things that are blocking your way. We do have on July 12th, Saturn retrograde that is going to move back into Capricorn. And so this Saturn retrograde has been in Aquarius, and once again we had this sneak peek here of Saturn in Aquarius, where the focus has been very much about the people. It has been about the future, about where we're headed. As it comes back into Capricorn, we're getting this old theme where this is focused on the government. It is focused on political leaders. It's focused on worldly events, how we are gaining structure and discipline and getting things done in the world. And on a personal level, very much geared towards your own responsibilities, duty, routine, personal discipline, how you are managing tasks within your life. And this especially as it is happening in the Dhanishta Nakshatra, where we will see this retrograde. This is heavily focused on how you are getting to your goals, how you are moving with grace, how you are moving strategically to get to that objective. We do have Mercury that will enter into Cancer here on the 16th of July. So big shift taking place here as Mercury leaves its home sign and moves into the home of the moon. And Moon and Mercury have a little bit of a difficult relationship. Moon, of course, never sees any planet as an enemy, but Mercury struggles a lot with the moon. So we have these intense energies that are coming together here. As Mercury enters into Cancer, this can be a huge time of high emotion. This can be a time of restlessness, of anger, of frustration. So you want to be careful about how you are expressing your emotions, how your moods are coming out, how your conversations are going. This could definitely be a very crabby time of being frustrated and lashing out at people with this heavy emotional expression here through Mercury. This is also a great time, though, for those of you who are looking to create and express yourself in more of an emotional way. So excellent time for artists, for musicians, for any kind of entrepreneurs, those working on projects. That creativity, that imagination, that emotion is coming through very strong here. And again, Mercury dealing with our skills, dealing with our practicality, our ability to go for what we want. And so this is especially a great time for any skills that are dealing with this emotional expression. This can also be a time where you feel very connected to your family, to your loved ones. This can be a very emotional time of people gathering together, supporting one another. Again, you want to be careful about how you are expressing yourself, that this is not coming out in a very moody way here. On July 28th, we will see Jupiter station retrograde in Pisces. So Jupiter has been here in Pisces in its home sign, very comfortable position for Jupiter. However, many people have been struggling with this transit of Jupiter in Pisces, as Pisces is wanting to take us towards spirituality, towards liberation. And so this is especially difficult for those who are very much geared towards the worldly affairs, the material side of life. This Jupiter in Pisces is wanting to take us into deep reflection, into travel, into learning deep wisdom and spirituality. This is a very strong position for meditation, for spiritual progress, for deep introspection, as Jupiter is here in Pisces. As it comes into this zone of retrograde, it will be in the nakshatra of Uttara Bhadrapada. Uttara Bhadrapada especially is about combining the physical and the spiritual realm. It is about pulling your dreams out, pulling this mystical wisdom and spirituality and bringing it down to the world to help, to make a difference. strong humanitarian placement. And this Uttara Bhadrapada also has a tendency to isolate, to disconnect for short periods of time. So this especially is a Jupiter retrograde to reflect deeply on your spiritual path, to reflect deeply on your direction, on your purpose. Are you doing things that are meaningful to you? Are you doing things that are setting you on the right path? A lot of internal work to do as Jupiter stations retrograde here in Pisces. This is an excellent time for meditation, for keeping a journal, for some keeping a dream journal, for going out taking a walk, for any kind of practices that will get you into a space of connecting deeply with yourself and understanding things more on a deep spiritual internal level. So this is a very intense retrograde that we're having here. And what you will notice is that Saturn is going to aspect Jupiter in this retrograde. And so this is especially going to be a time of looking back to 2020. What was happening at the end of 2020 when we went through this great conjunction? Where were you headed in your life at that time? Compared to where you are now, have you lost your direction? Did you choose a direction that has taken you somewhere where you do not want to be? And now it is time to shift and pivot that direction in your life. So there's a lot here to look at in terms of your outlook, your principle, your path. Are you on the right path? Is this taking you towards your spiritual destiny and purpose? If not, this is definitely a huge time to look at how you can change the vision, how you can change the direction of your life. Huge retrograde. And again, this will receive an aspect over from Saturn that is also in retrograde. So we have a lot of reviewing to do in terms of our direction and path in life. On July 28th, we will see a new moon in Cancer, and this will be taking place in the nakshatra of Pushya. Pushya has everything to do with spirituality, teaching, nurturing. It is a very wise nakshatra that is all about giving us deep insight and advice that will help to nurture us and protect us along our path. And so this is an excellent time during this new moon to seek out a new teacher, a new practice, to seek out some new guidance and information that will help you along your spiritual journey. This new moon can be a huge assistance in your spiritual path, as this is the place where Jupiter reaches its exaltation here in the Pushya nakshatra. And we have this big Jupiter retrograde at home in Pisces. So this new moon will certainly help you with your path and direction of where you're going in life. Of course, on the 16th, we will also see the sun enter into the sign of Cancer. So once again, this is shifting the whole focus here in this direction towards our home, our family, our private life, connecting, socializing. This more emotional space that we're moving into here, really looking at what makes us happy, what makes us fulfilled, what makes us nurtured. What are we expressing creatively? Are we in a peaceful state within our mind? Is huge at this time. Huge moment of the focus being on our comfort, our happiness, and our emotional fulfillment. This, again, will be at the same time that Mercury will shift into Cancer. And so coming in here on July 16th, we will have a combust Mercury. And so this is especially a time where you want to watch those emotional spikes, those difficulties within your connections and communication. This Mercury getting burnt out especially gives a lack of clarity and reasoning, so this can be very difficult to contain emotions. This could be a very moody time of expressing oneself. So very challenging here as we have this combustion that is taking place between the Sun and Mercury. Mercury will get out of this, and so we will see this push forward here in our progress. The Sun in Cancer also is a great opportunity to win over the respect of your bosses, of any authority figures in your life. Once again, this Cancer energy is drawing us more into a sensitive and emotional side. And so this can definitely be a time where you are seeing authority figures becoming more caring, more considerate, more protective, more geared towards supporting you in your growth in life. So let's go ahead and take a look at how these transits will affect each of you according to your moon or ascendant. And just a quick disclaimer before we get into this, I am not using Western tropical astrology. This will be based on Vedic astrology, which is using the sidereal zodiac. So if you are not familiar with what your sidereal ascendant or moon sign is, there's a calculator down below in the description so that you can have the correct information. This is also not going to be according to your sun sign. The transits will be according to your ascendant or moon sign. That is very important. The ascendant is the map of all of your karmas and experiences within this life. And so everything that is playing out in your life will happen in accordance to your ascendant. The moon is also how you are experiencing all of the patterns that are playing out in your life. The moon is your mind. It is everything that you are perceiving, that you are reacting and responding to. And so these are the most important positions to read your horoscope from. Let's go ahead and start off for those of you with an Aries moon or Aries ascendant. So we will have Venus and Mercury, which have been sitting here in your second house, push forward into your third house. So big transition that's taking place here as we have this focus that is all about your communication. As Venus and Mercury are in your second house, it really puts a huge focus on your connection to family, on your security, on your resources. But as Venus and Mercury push ahead into the third house, this is a great time for self-expression. This is a great time to start a new project, to move in the direction of what you want to achieve. Remember that this third house has everything to do with courage, the ability to take the initiative, and Mercury is controlling your third house along with your sixth. And so this is a huge time to start to push ahead towards the things that you want to make happen. This can be a difficult time in relationships with this Venus that controls over your 7th house and Ketu that is there in the 7th house as well. So this is definitely a time where you want to pay close attention to how you are coming across to others. How are you speaking? How are you communicating? Is this positive or not? Again, we have this K2 influence in that 7th house where your focus really has been on yourself and your path, which is creating some disconnection there in that 7th house of partnership. We do have this new moon that's taking place in your 4th house, and this is a big full moon, once again, that's taking place here in Pushya. So this is a time of especially seeking out some wisdom and counsel for some of you from your mother, from your family, from those that you are closely connected to. This can also be a time where you are feeling more connected and attached to your home, more so looking to go inward to find some peace, some happiness within yourself. We have this full moon that's also taking place in Sagittarius there in your 9th house there in Purvashada. So we have this full moon that is coming into the 9th house where some of you finding some happiness through your studies, through traveling, through adventuring, taking up new opportunities at this time can bring you some peace and happiness. We have this Saturn retrograde, of course, that has been sitting here in your 11th house in Aquarius. We got this sneak peek of what this Saturn in Aquarius transit will look like. But Saturn Saturn is getting ready to move back into Capricorn in that 10th house where it spent such a long time there. As Saturn comes back into the 10th house, this is especially a time to reevaluate your goals and your career to make sure that everything is in order along your path of where you are going. We have this Jupiter retrograde big event taking place back in your 12th house, where this is a time of moving into deep contemplation and reflection. This is certainly a time to look at your spiritual life, to look at your studies, to look at what you need on an emotional level. And so again, this can be a big time of traveling, of seeking, of looking for a teacher, of going into meditation and reflection. This is a month here that is taking you more inward. For those of you with a Taurus moon or Taurus ascendant, we have Venus, Mercury here in your first house, making you very popular, very attractive, very good at socializing and connecting. But Venus and Mercury is going to shift ahead into your second house, where this is putting a focus here on actually connecting more with your family and connecting more on a personal level. This can be a big time of managing your finances, of making sure that you're taking care of everything properly. Venus, of course, is ruling over your 6th house along with your 1st house. So this can be a big time where you are focused on your health. As Venus pushes ahead into the 6th house of your food intake, this can be a time where you are looking to take on a new diet, or you are needing to look very closely at your eating habits. This can be a huge focus that is coming in on your health, on your beauty, on your fitness, as Venus is pushing ahead here. We do have the Sun that has been sitting here in this 2nd house that's going to push ahead into your 3rd house. Sun in the 2nd house definitely giving you a lot of courage, a lot of determination in terms of how you are speaking, in terms of how you are dealing with your daily routine and priority, feeling very secure with the Sun as it controls that 4th house coming into the 2nd house. As the Sun pushes ahead into the 3rd house, this may be a time where you have to work a little harder, put more focus in your efforts to make sure that everything is completed. The Sun also coming into this 3rd house can definitely put a focus on your communication. You want to be careful about how you are communicating. This can definitely give you more of a fiery way of communicating that can create some problems here. You can see some major competition taking place as Sun pushes ahead into the 3rd. We have a new moon that is also taking place here in this 3rd house. Great opportunity to start something new, a new project, a new endeavor, to really put yourself out there and to strive towards what you want. We have a full moon that is also taking place over in your 8th house, very intense full moon. This 8th house has everything to do with sudden changes. And we have this moon that is a very interesting planet as it controls over your 3rd house. So this is a big time where you may need to put some more effort in. You can see some sudden shifts happening in your life where this is a time to be courageous and to push ahead through these obstacles, as this will take you towards something promising. We have Saturn retrograde that is going to shift out of that 10th house back into this 9th house here. This 10th house has especially put a huge focus on your responsibilities, your routine, your career, ensuring that everything is done correctly. But as Saturn comes back, there's something that you need to review, that you need to look over here. This can be a great time of a teacher coming into your life, of gaining some more insight, for some of you gaining some more education that will help to drive this career success forward. We have Jupiter that is stationing retrograde in your 11th house. As Jupiter has come in here, Jupiter is quite a tricky planet here as it is controlling this Sagittarius and Pisces energy. Not really a friend of your ruler, but Jupiter in here in this 11th house trying to bring in opportunities for you to grow, for you to gain some traction here in your career, in your connections, in your ability to gain all all of your hopes and dreams. This Jupiter retrograde asking you to really review everything to make sure that what you want is truly in accordance with your path. For those of you with a Gemini moon or Gemini ascendant, this will be the sun here in your first house, giving you incredible confidence and self-assertiveness. But as the sun pushes ahead into your second house, this really puts the spotlight on your family, on your money, on your resources, on how you are managing everything in your life. This can be a huge time where you are focused on how can you gain some financial resources. How can you increase your stability? This can be a huge time where you're focused on your partnerships, on what you're gaining through your partnerships. This certainly is a time where you want to be careful about how you are speaking and coming across to others. The sun coming into the second house of speech can definitely give you a very domineering way of speaking to others. We have this new moon that is going to take place here in your in your second house, where this is once again opening you up to opportunities to increase your wealth, to increase your possessions. This is a huge focus at this time in July, is how secure are you? How much do you have? How are you managing everything? We have this full moon that is taking place in your seventh house. This is a very interesting full moon here. This can be a big time of letting go of old, outdated attachments in terms of your connections with others. This can be a big time of an old relationship coming to a completion, or some problems within a relationship finally coming to a closure, where this is being talked out, discussed, and this is being put to completion. So this is a big time to look at your relationships, to look at how they are affecting you, how much you're putting into these relationships, and what needs to go, what needs to be finalized in this area. This can also affect you in the area of business for those of you who are in business partnerships. We have Saturn retrograde in this ninth house, but pushing back into your eighth house, very intense, where this is going to take you very deep into your spirituality, into really going into the space of deep transformation. And so this is definitely a time where you want to look at those areas where the change, where the growth needs to take place. You can find yourself going through sudden and dramatic changes in your security. Again, focus is all on your security during this month of July. We have Jupiter that is stationing retrograde here in your 10th house, asking you to review your vision in terms of your career path, which many of you with this Pisces controlling over this 10th house are entrepreneurs. So this is definitely asking you to look over what direction are you going in, what path are you taking, how is this going to work for you. Venus, Mercury back in that 12th house, very interesting, where some of you have been very much to yourselves, very much turned inward, especially with your ruler that has been sitting back in this 12th house. But as Venus and Mercury pushes forward into your first house, this makes you more social, more outward, more so focused on your career and responsibilities. For those of you with a Cancer moon or Cancer ascendant, this will be a new moon taking place in your first house, starting you off on a brand new direction. We had that new moon that was sitting back in your 12th house last month, where there was a lot of deep and personal reflection about where are you going, how are things moving forward. But as this new moon comes into your first house, this is time to get things going. This is time to start those gears on this new path. This is very strong, especially because the moon is your ruler, and we have this big new moon happening in your first house, especially in Pushya, which is a very fortunate and wise nakshatra. This is a great time to look at the wisdom and the insight that you have gained through this time and reflection of going inward. In what direction, what path are you taking? What spiritual and creative energy are you going to use to move forward here with this Pushya new moon? we do have a full moon that is taking place in your 6th house. And so during this full moon, this can be a big time of looking at your health, at looking at your challenges and obstacles in life. This full moon asking you to clear out some blocks and to work on areas that need to be finalized in your life. Moon again is controlling your 1st house, coming into the 6th house. Both houses having a lot to do with your health. So this could be a time where you are looking at removing something that is no longer good for you. We have Saturn retrograde that's taking place in your 8th house, but pushing back into that 7th house again, where we've had this big Saturn Capricorn in the 7th house, affecting your relationships in a huge way. As Saturn pushes back into the 7th house, this is a big time to look at your relationships to see how much this is going to benefit you. Is this worth it? What are you getting out of this? How secure is this? And so there's a huge focus on your relationships as Saturn is controlling both the 7th and 8th house. How secure is this? What are you getting out of this? How much is this geared towards your path? How worthy is this relationship and connection to you? It's a big time to evaluate all of your relationships in your life. For some of you, business, romance, friendship, this is a big time to look at this area. We will have Jupiter stationing retrograde in your 9th house. And so this is definitely a time to look at your belief systems, your philosophy, your path ahead. Is this all in alignment with where you are going? Or is there something that needs to be changed within your path? We have Venus Mercury that is here in your 11th house, but moving ahead into the 12th house. And so this is definitely a social time with Venus and Mercury in this 11th house, especially Venus pulling you out into your friend circles, into your social life. But we have Mercury in there. Mercury is a very tricky planet. This could be a time where you are focused on your connection with your siblings, with your family members, with your elders for some of you. But there can be some loss or disconnection happening here. Venus and Mercury, as it pushes back into the 12th house, can really pull you back into a introverted state where you are looking to be more relaxed and more to yourself to find some peace. The Sun, especially as it is back in this 12th house, puts the focus on this introspection. But as the Sun pushes ahead into your 1st house, this definitely makes you more outgoing, more confident, more so in the spotlight. And so this can definitely be a toss-up between being very social, very outgoing, and finding that space to yourself. For those of you with a Leo moon or Leo ascendant, this will be a full moon taking place in your 5th house. Excellent position for creative expression. Remember that the moon is controlling your 12th house, so some of you looking inward, reflecting more into your creativity, your imagination, your spiritual life, drawing out some inspiration here, and this is an excellent time for any kind of projects that you're working on to utilize this creative energy to get towards your goals. We have Saturn retrograde here in the 7th house, and it's pushing back into the 6th house. A big relief as this Saturn energy has been sitting here in the 7th house, making relationships very tricky. This could have been a time where you were more introverted, more withdrawn with this Saturn energy. But as Saturn dips back into your 6th house, this is a time of focusing more on your responsibilities, on your health, on making sure that everything is managed properly. Saturn definitely functioning much better in this 6th house, as this is a home for Saturn. So this is giving you a ton of strength and discipline to push through those daily obstacles. We have Jupiter stationing retrograde in your 8th house, where this is taking you into deep reflection and introspection. Very spiritual time where you can receive a lot of progress. There's sudden ups and downs, this big transformative moment for you that is taking you to a higher spiritual quest. We have this Venus Mercury sitting in your 10th house, which is definitely making you more popular, more geared towards your career and socializing. But as Venus and Mercury pushes ahead into the 11th house, this especially is going to draw in a lot of resources through your social environment, through your connections. This is huge, where you can see your contacts increasing and your popularity increasing through this Venus-Mercury 11th house. This is a big time where you can see huge progress in your business for those of you who are putting yourselves out there. We have the sun that has been in this 11th house, again lighting up that area of career, of your social life. But as sun dips back into the 12th house, this is asking you to reflect a little bit. And sun, of course, is your ruler. So this especially is asking you to take your time, to make sure that you're prioritizing things properly, to make sure that you're taking care of your health. As sun dips back into this 12th house, it is going to aspect over to your 6th house, where are you working yourself too hard? Are you pushing through barriers but not taking care of your health, not getting enough sleep? This is a huge area to look at. For those of you with a Virgo moon or Virgo ascendant, we will see a full moon take place in your 4th house. And this moon, of course, is controlling over your 11th house. So this can be a big time where you are feeling more social, more geared towards connecting with others. This can also be a big time where you are thinking of your future and how you are going to get there. But there's something big here that needs to be taken care of within your family, within your home life, within your own sense of happiness and peace. Finding some closure here in this area is huge. We have this Saturn retrograde that is going to take place in your 6th house, but pushing back into the 5th house. And so this is definitely asking you to look at your creativity, to look at your ability to express yourself. And how are you putting this to use? The Saturn energy controlling your 5th and 6th house, asking you to pull on your skills and creativity to make something happen here. We have Jupiter that is stationing retrograde in your 7th house. And so this is definitely a time to review your relationships, both with your family and with your friends and partners. We have this Jupiter energy controlling both of these houses of your 4th and 7th. So all connections that are personal to you, big time to reevaluate it, to look at where is this going, what is the direction of this relationship. We have Venus and Mercury here in your 9th house, but moving backwards into your 10th house. So in this 9th house, Venus, Mercury is here making you more interested in learning and gathering information and starting to expand. But as Venus and Mercury pushes ahead into your 10th house, this immediately is wanting you to use what you have learned, to use your skills, to use the knowledge that you've collected, and to put it to use in your career and responsibilities. We have Sun that is pushing ahead into your 11th house. Sun in that 10th house, putting a spotlight on your career. But as Sun moves back into the 11th house, this especially is going to put the focus on your social connections and what you're putting out into the world. With the Sun pushing back into this 11th house, this can be a time where you find that others are leaning on you for support, especially as the Sun is controlling that 12th house. This is a big time where other people are seeking out your help and guidance. For those of you with a Libra moon or Libra ascendant, we will have a full moon taking place in your 3rd house. This is a huge time of how are you initiating yourself in your career? How are you pushing forward with your goals and responsibilities? This is a big time to definitely eliminate any kind of blocks that are happening with your ability to push ahead. This full moon is a huge time to look at what areas are blocking you, what is in your way at this time, and to look at how can you clear all of this, how can you let go of this so that you can move ahead. Again, remember that this full moon is taking place in Purvashada, which has everything to do with the power to invigorate. So gaining that confidence in yourself to push through these obstacles is huge. We have the Saturn retrograde that's taking place back in your 5th house, but it's also going to push back into your 4th house when it moves into Capricorn. And as Saturn goes back into this 4th house, big things to review in your home life, in your family. This Saturn, of course, is controlling both the 5th and the 4th, acting as a yoga karka for those of you. So this is definitely a huge time for you to reevaluate all of your life decisions and how you are moving ahead. This Saturn is here to help you with your growth and your path forward. We have Jupiter that's stationing retrograde here in your 6th house. So this is definitely asking you to look at your health, to look at your decisions, to look at what you believe in, and to make sure that all of this is according to your correct path in life. This is definitely a time to make sure that you're not being easily fooled or that you're not having a vision that is unrealistic. You want to reevaluate everything in terms of your direction forward. We have Venus and Mercury here in your 8th house, but moving forward into your 9th house. So Venus Mercury has definitely taken you into this introspective space of looking over how you are expressing yourself, how you're communicating, how you are looking at things in your life. But as Venus and Mercury push forward into this 9th house, this definitely is putting you more in a mood of exploring, of adventuring, of learning, of getting more out of your comfort zone. This Venus, of course, controls your 1st house of self. And we have this Mercury that's also controlling your 9th house. So this is a big time of expressing yourself, of learning, of exploring, of growing. This is a big moment for those of you who are on a spiritual path, as Mercury is a huge spiritual factor ruling over this 9th and 12th house for you. So this is a definite time for your growth, for your expansion. And we have a new moon that is taking place in your 10th house of career. So this is huge, as this is the moon that is controlling your 10th house in this very beneficial space where Jupiter gets exalted in Pushya. This is a powerful position where you can find yourself starting new, starting fresh in your career. This can also be a time where you feel that you are back on the right track if you have fallen off track in this area. We have the sun that has been here in this 9th house, lighting up this area where you are supposed to be learning. This could even be a time where you have a strong connection to your father or mentors, teachers, guides, coming in, giving you some insight. This can also be on an intuitive level where you have gained a lot of insight through your introspection. As sun comes into the 10th house, this is asking you to take your wisdom and knowledge that you have gained and to put this on display in your career, in your responsibilities, in your public life. For those of you with a Scorpio moon or Scorpio ascendant, this will be a full moon taking place in your 2nd house. The moon, of course, is a very beneficial planet ruling over that 9th house of your chart. As it comes into this 2nd house, this puts a spotlight on your family. And so this is a big time to focus on all of your family responsibilities, everything that has to do with your wealth, navigating all of this correctly. Anything that you've been holding on to in the past, anything that you are holding on that isn't serving you, any sort of difficulties from the past around your security, your stability, time to let go of some of these fears and difficulties. Again, this full moon is taking place here in Purva Ashada, which is asking you to remove those blocks that is stopping you from moving forward. We have Saturn retrograde taking place in your 4th house, but moving backwards, Saturn, of course, is ruling over your 2nd and 3rd house, being a very difficult planet for many of you. But this Saturn retrograde, as it moves back into the 3rd, asking you to review your ability to initiate and to go for what you want. That Saturn that has been sitting in that 3rd house forever has been a huge block on the courage of many people with this Scorpio ascendant. Big relief, as it has given us this sneak peek moving forward into the 4th house, but asking you to review this area once again. How confident are you? How are you going to take the initiative to move towards your goals? And what practical steps are you going to do to make this happen? So this is definitely a very difficult transit, as Saturn is stationing retrograde and pushing backwards into this 3rd house. This is really challenging you to look at all of your fears and difficulties that are stopping you from moving forward. Looking at how can you be more disciplined, how can you be more focused on getting towards this goal. Jupiter retrograde taking place in your 5th house is an excellent position. Jupiter is a very beneficial planet for your chart as it controls this 5th house of your past merits and enjoyment. As Jupiter stations retrograde, this is going to take you deeper into this area, reflecting on your ability to create and express yourself. Again, this has everything to do with your confidence, your ability to go for what you want, removing those blocks out of your life. Venus Mercury has been here in your 7th house, where this has been a very social time for many of you, but Mercury is a very challenging planet that takes you through dramatic ups and downs. So you may have found these difficulties taking place in your relationships. Venus and Mercury pushing forward into this 8th house really is going to take you through these sudden changes, as this is Mercury's home here in the 8th house of sudden ups and downs. So this is a major time to look at your relationships, to look at your connections with your friend circles, your social networks, to look at your goals and your income coming in to make sure that everything is under control. This will take you through a roller coaster of events where there is a lot of growth taking place here in this area. We have the Sun here in your 8th house, which is going to push ahead into your 9th house. Sun in the 8th house has made many of you very deep and introspective. A lot of wisdom coming from many of you with Scorpio moon, Scorpio ascendant, as the Sun controls your 10th house. So lots of this deep inner wisdom that has come from this area. But this Sun is going to push forward into your 9th house, where now this is time to teach, this is time to share, this is time to publish, this is time to explore things that are outside yourself. So this energy is pulling you outward now. This new moon will also take place in your 9th house. So opening you up to a new study, a new practice, a new direction is huge. For those of you with a Sagittarius moon, Sagittarius ascendant, this will be a full moon taking place in your 1st house of self. Very intense, as the moon controls your 8th house of sudden ups and downs. So this moon is a very difficult graha for many of you with Sagittarius moon, Sag ascendant. But as this full moon is taking place here, this is definitely a time of ending, of completion, of letting go. This could even be a very emotional time for many of you with the moon's rulership over that 8th house. This is releasing, cleansing, clearing out things from the past to make room for something brand new. We have the Saturn retrograde here in your 3rd house. This has been very interesting as Saturn has come into the 3rd house, making many of you much more reserved, more strategic, more pragmatic in your approach. But as Saturn pushes back into the 2nd house, this puts a highlight back on your security, on your family, on your responsibilities. This could be a time where you need to sacrifice some things for your family, where there is someone here in this area of your family members who is needing your help and support. So this definitely is putting a focus back on that area of your responsibilities, of your duty, of your routine, of your finances, and your family life. We have Jupiter that's stationing retrograde here in your 4th house. And so this is definitely a time to review your decisions around family. Many of you thinking of moving or changing things within your home. Any kind of changes and decisions around the home environment need to be looked over. So this is not a time of making dramatic decisions. This is a time to plan for what decisions you will make in the future. We have Venus Mercury that is stationing here in this 6th house, where this is a big moment of socializing and connecting within your workspace, using your diplomacy to get things done in a peaceful way, doing things in the right way. We have Venus Mercury though that will push forward into this 7th house, taking the ease off of this 6th house. Remember that beneficial planets, positive planets, don't do as well in this 6th house. Venus Mercury is also very challenging planets for your chart. But as Venus and Mercury push ahead into this Seventh house, this is a time to resolve any kind of conflicts and issues popping up in your relationships. We do have the sun that has been sitting here in the seventh house, putting a spotlight on your relationships, almost putting the focus and responsibility on others. But as the sun pushes ahead into your eighth house, this definitely is making you go more inward and to reflect on your relationships and changes that need to take place in this area. And how much support are you getting from this? How worthy are these relationships in your life? We have new moon taking place in this eighth house as well, where this is opening you up to new dramatic changes in your life. Again, this whole theme for those of you with Sag moon, Sag rising here in the month of July has everything to do with dramatic changes and personal transformation. For those of you with a Capricorn moon or Capricorn ascendant, we have Saturn retrograde taking place in your second house. And Saturn, of course, is your ruler. It rules over that first and second house. Prioritizing your responsibilities, your duty, your routine is huge at this time. And as Saturn stations retrograde, this is asking you to review all of your responsibilities to make sure that everything is in order. This is also clearing out some major karmic difficulties from the past. So really asking you to reflect in this area of your family, of your security, of your past, and to make sure that everything is sorted out properly. We have Jupiter stationing retrograde, and Jupiter, very difficult planet for you as it is ruling over this third house. And so this is definitely a time of looking at those areas where you need to release and let go. This could be a time of bringing up some difficulties around siblings, cousins, those closest to you, and needing to sort out those difficulties. You can have some big difficulties around having a different path or a different outlook in your philosophy and needing to really hash out in this area. This is a time of being more courageous in your view, in your perspective, and how you're going to move forward. We have Venus and Mercury in this fifth house, and it's going to push forward into your sixth house. Venus, Mercury in that fifth house has been excellent in terms of your ability to create, to express yourself more. But as Venus and Mercury come into the sixth house, how can you put these things into action? How can you make something out of this? So this is putting the focus more on your responsibilities, on the things that need to get done in your life. And Venus Mercury definitely is going to be challenging here as these are beneficial planets coming into your sixth house. This is a big time to pay close attention to your health, to your diet, to how you are taking care of everything in your life. Be very cautious of laziness with this Venus coming in here, where this can get you somewhat off track. The sun in the sixth house has been putting a spotlight on this area for some time, but as the sun moves ahead into your seventh house, this is definitely going to put a focus on your relationships, on how you're connecting and relating to others. Very difficult position. The sun controlling over that eighth house of your chart means that you definitely need to look at your self-esteem and how you are connecting to others. Are people taking advantage of you? Are people making themselves a priority in your life? And are you willing to make yourself a priority and to focus on the areas where you need to change and grow? We have a new moon that's taking place in the seventh house as well. And so this could definitely be a time where new people are coming into your life. New people who are here to give you some wisdom, some advice, some guidance can come through. But you want to be very careful about what relationships are you getting involved in. With all of these new interactions coming in, what are you willing to commit to? What is actually a priority to you in your life, and not getting distracted and thrown off course? This full moon is going to take place back in your 12th house. And so this is definitely a time to look deeper at your relationships, to make sure that everything is in order in that area. But this is certainly a time of going into deep reflection, of looking at things that need to be completed and brought to an end. So this can even be a time where you are losing connections, where people who have outlived their purpose are leaving and moving on, where this is time to let go, making room for these new people with this new moon here in this seventh house. For those of you with an Aquarius moon, Aquarius ascendant, Saturn will be stationing retrograde here in your first house, but pushing forward into the 12th house. And so as Saturn moves back into your 12th house, this is definitely going to pull you back into deep introspection, into reflection. This is more of an introverted period, especially because Saturn is your chart ruler and it is moving behind you. This is a time of meditation. This is a time of looking inward, of taking that time for rest that you need to yourself. So this is definitely going to pull you out of this space of the limelight, of the attention, of being focused outwardly. We have Jupiter stationing retrograde in your second house. And so Jupiter is a very interesting planet for many of you as it controls that 2nd and 11th house. This is a big time where you are focusing on your connections and relations when it comes to your goals and responsibility. So this is definitely a time of how can you grow, how can you expand in your wealth and your security, and looking for those connections with others that will help you to grow in this area, but also looking at what are your goals, what are your plans for the future, what direction are you moving in. We have Venus and Mercury that is taking place in this 4th house of your chart, but moving ahead into your 5th house. Venus Mercury has got you in a thinking mood of what can you create, what can you do, what skills can you gain. But as Venus and Mercury moves ahead into your 5th house, this is a time of putting this all into action. And so this can definitely get you more in a mood of wanting to work towards your projects and goals. We have Sun in here in this 5th house, putting a spotlight on this area, but as Sun pushing it ahead into your 6th house, this definitely is asking you to focus on your health and your routine and how you're going to put everything into practical practice. The Sun, of course, is a difficult planet as it controls your 7th house. You want to make sure that your relationships are not a distraction to your forward progress at this time. You also want to be careful about who you are interacting with. Major stress and anxiety can come through your relationships with this Sun pushing ahead into the 6th house. We have a new moon that is also taking place here in the 6th house, and so this is definitely a time to develop a new routine or a new health habit that is going to benefit you. So something big here that is no longer serving you as far as your health, as far as how you're managing conflicts and stress in your life. And this new moon bringing in some great advice, some great insight about how you need to change in this area. We have a full moon that is taking place in your 11th house. And so this is a major area of completion. Again, letting go of the old, outdated habits that are no longer serving you. This full moon is really bringing you into a space of what is your vision, what is your direction that you want to move into, and what have you been holding on to, what are those past burdens that need to go. For those of you with a Pisces moon or Pisces ascendant, this will be Jupiter stationing retrograde in your 1st house. And so this is a big time of, especially for you, what is your direction, what is your vision, what is your path. This Jupiter is controlling your chart and your 10th house, which has everything to do with your career path, with your public image. And so everything here needs to be reevaluated, your whole direction in life of where are you going. We have Venus and Mercury that is here in your 3rd house, but getting ready to move forward into your 4th house. So Venus Mercury definitely pulling you into this more creative space, this more expressive space. But as Venus Mercury pushes into your 4th house, this definitely is making your connections in your home life stronger. This can be a time where you are more connected to your home, more so working on projects and connecting to family members, more so than being out in the public. We have the Sun that's been here lighting up this spotlight on your 4th house, where everything has been centered around your family, your home life. But as the Sun moves ahead into the 5th house, again, this gets you into this creative mood, this expressive mood of working towards your projects, of looking at your future, of looking at what will bring you the most happiness within your life. The new moon taking place in this 5th house, making room for you to start a new project, to start a new aim in life. For For some of you, some new romance coming in with this 5th house new moon taking place. This is happening in Pushya, where this is a very fortunate position. You can get some great guidance coming in this area. This could also be a time where your children are needing some guidance and direction in their life. We have a full moon taking place in the 10th house, and so this is definitely time to clear some things out that are no longer serving you in your direction. Again, your whole vision needs to be looked at, needs to be reevaluated. Where are you going? What is the direction of all of this? What are you prepared to create and to put out into the world? We have this Saturn retrograde taking place back in your 12th house, but it's going to move back into the 11th house. And so Saturn is controlling both your 12th and 11th house, making these very challenging houses. This Saturn has a huge effect on your connection with other people and wanting to keep a small circle and wanting to be more independent and isolated. This Saturn, as it shifts back into this 11th house, is definitely going to make you look over your friend circles again and to make sure that you are holding on to friends that are going to benefit you in your life, and that anything that needs to be cleared is being removed. This Saturn has been back in this 12th house, where this has been a major time of detaching and letting go, of people moving on and disconnecting from you. But this is especially a time to look at what is your decision, what is the right judgment in this area in terms of your connections, your goals, your whole direction and focus. What are you connected to? Is it distracting you from your purpose? Is it benefiting you along your purpose?